going to Lisa Pie, and the request was under
Sorry.
the request was under Lisa Kim. That's all that was happening.
Well, I think my Skype username is Lisa Pie, and then my name, I don't know. It's confusing. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah.
We're connected. How many of you are there?
It's two of us. It's late here on a Friday night, so
What time is
it's
it?
6:30.
That's late for you girls?
Well,
I'm shocked.
you know, we're at school.
For
so,
school.
Yeah.
Oh, school. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah. And where you live in LA? Where do you live?
In West Hollywood.
Oh, okay. Whereabouts?
In Havenhurst Drive. Here, I'm outside. Here's the street.
Nice. I'm from LA, so.
Oh well, yeah. So you know West Hollywood.
Yes, very well.
So where did you live in LA?
Koreatown.
Right.
Yeah.
I love Koreatown because I love Korean food.
Yes. There's a lot of that there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for talking to us. This is great. We're recording this. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I have a cold, so my voice is not as nice as it should be. But this is obviously I'm Lisa. This is Marisol.
Hi.
And
Marisol?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So we've been excited to get a chance to talk to you, and I don't know, like, do you want to how should we start this off? Just ask you about Gallery House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just
Yeah, we just jump into it, shall we?
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, first off, just let me say that I think you've got a great subject here because this has not been studied or written about. Basically, because we were so radical and not part of the establishment. And there's an article I sent Alison. I don't know whether you saw it from Art and Artists, where it actually it's a picture of me with Dick Tracy breaking into Van Gogh's bedroom, smashing down the door.
I've seen that, yeah.
And the headline, the title of the article is Anti-Social Realism and the Other Culture. Like they regarded us as the other culture, which is like that really explains it because the art establishment, and it still is a very well, just to put it crudely, it's up itself. I mean, it's a very elitist, very snobbish. I'm a snob myself now, by the way. I didn't used to be, but it's very snobbish and very tight little thing.
Yeah.
And so I said no attention was paid to it, and also the fact that Ziggy Krauss, if you go back to the Ziggy Krauss gallery, and I should emphasize this, that really Gallery House did come straight out of that. It was the continuation of it because Ziggy was actually bankrupted by Studio International, the art magazine, which was a bit of a scandal in itself.
Right.
Really shocking for like £10 or something. I don't know what the amount was. Ziggy will tell you. He's very open about it. I'm not telling tales out of school. It was sort of a scandal. And then also, I'm not sure, and I may be pushing this point a bit too high, but the other reason it didn't get attention, the Ziggy Krauss Gallery got a lot of attention with the Degenerate Art Exhibition and the meat sculpture. But then when he started Gallery House, there was another stigma there, which is it was German. And the art press in London were really like, well, what is this? This guy was the framer for Marlborough, and now he's at the Goethe Institute. What exactly is it? So it didn't fit in again to what they thought was supposed to be happening. But the funny thing was, of course, that Ziggy was the framer for the most establishment gallery in London, and like an incredibly important gallery. They represented Francis Bacon and everybody, and he was their framer. And we used to go on the tube I mean, when I think back, it's like, oh my God, Ziggy was crazy. We'd go on the tube with framed kokoschkas and stuff to take to the gallery. He'd say, could you take this to Marlborough? We go, what is it? I said, oh, it's a kokoschka. Just be careful. And we go down the tube with this bloody, I mean, it's just amazing, actually. So it was crazy. And then Marlborough, of course, they were a bit shocked when their framer had a gallery exhibiting meat.
Right.
And so it was like, oh, what's going on? Oh, I mean, must say, what's going on here? You know, Ziggy, have you lost your marbles? Really? So it was a lot of fun. I mean, we were very young. Most of us were very young. Ziggy was young. And so we were having tremendous fun. But it was totally the gallery was totally in the tradition of Dada, basically. And the idea, and this is so amusing to me in retrospect, considering all Marlborough's paintings were being framed downstairs, we were totally against the idea of art being a commodity that you sell. That transferred into Gallery House, but the zeitgeist or the whole thing we were about was, if you're selling art, it's not art. We were absolutely staunch. In the Pentagon. And so I was ensconced in that when I was aware of what was happening at Gallery House, but I wasn't physically there. I was in Washington, I was in LA, I was running around. But just getting back to my point, this thing about art that doesn't sell, of course, is kind of crazy because you've got to pay the bills. And but that's where we were coming from. And I think I emailed you. I'll just tell you the story because I think it's. Everyone's impressed with my meat sculpture because Scotland Yard closed it down. Do you know the details about this?
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't know. So the meat sculpture is pretty big. It's just a life size of a man rotting, made out of brains, organs, kidneys for kidneys, liver for liver, animal organs, but it was a sculpture of a man. Across the street from the Ziggy Krauss Gallery was sorry, now it's my voice. Across the street was a restaurant called the Neal Street Restaurant. Ziggy's gallery was in Neal Street. Mm-hmm. This restaurant was really posh and trendy. Uh-huh. And Princess Margaret would eat there every Tuesday. We didn't know this. 1 week into the meat sculpture, Scotland Yard detectives arrive at the gallery. I was there. And Ziggy was there. By the way, there were never too many people in the gallery. Unless there was some scandal going on. But Scotland Yard came in and they said to Ziggy, there's been a royal complaint about the odor in the street. And it seems to be coming from here. And what is that? And he just points to this meat in a glass box. And Ziggy says, oh, that's a work of art. And the detective, there was like 3 or 4 of them, and they said, look, they're very polite. They said, look, we don't really care what it is, and you must get rid of it immediately, particularly after the royal complaint. And they explained that Princess Margaret eats across the street every Tuesday. So Ziggy said, okay, that's fine. So Ziggy, being the most idealistic, actually, and the most purest of all of us, said, I'm not destroying this, Philippe. It's a work of art. I'm taking it home. I'll put it in the backyard. So he gets a truck and he drives it to Highgate where he lived and he puts it in his backyard. Now, this could be my finest moment, I think, in avant-garde art, because what happened then was the neighbors who hated Germans because of the Blitz called Scotland Yard, and they said, our neighbor has murdered his wife and she's rotting in the backyard. Well, okay, so Scotland Yard again, they this time there's like 8 of them, and it's the homicide squad, and with guns. And I wasn't there, but Ziggy describes it perfectly. You can ask him. And fortunately, I think because of the name Ziggy Kraus, there was one cop who they'd brought along with the homicide squad, and he immediately recognized the meat sculpture, and he said, Mr. Kraus, not the bloody meat sculpture again. We told you to get rid of this. And that was the end of it. So those were our adventures. Now, the German thing's kind of the German connection, of course, is important because Ziggy was German, and there was a lot of avant-garde stuff going on in Germany. And as I recall, you could check this. As I recall, when Joseph Beuys, it was the first time German artists had come to London since the war. There was still a lot of antipathy, even in late 60s and early 70s, to Germans in London. But these were artists, and there was, I want to say, there was some institution, not the Tate, there was some art institution that had invited Beuys over, and Beuys was doing his performances with pork and crap. He was doing, and rabbits and all that stuff he was doing. And we went to see it, and he came to the gallery with Klaus Stack. Klaus Stack, by the way, now is very prominent in Germany. He's the president of the German Academy of Art. He's like the #1 art bureaucrat, ironically. But then he was quite a radical guy, left-wing guy, and he was like Beuys' valet, really. He's like his assistant. But he was also a publisher, and he had a publishing company, and I think he does. Anyway, I had a one-man show after the meat sculpture, and the paintings were all, the idea was I'd just do an exhibition in black and white, because it irked me that when my paintings were reproduced in the newspapers and in most magazines, they were all reproduced in black and white, because it was just not what I'd done. So I thought, if I paint the pictures in black and white, when they're reproduced, that will be actually a color reproduction. Mm-hmm. And that was explained at the exhibition. These are black and white pictures, so when they're reproduced, you're seeing exactly what I did. So I painted a picture of it's called Experiment on a Rat, and it was published in Art International. I've got it somewhere, I can find it. But anyway, the exhibition opened, and then I thought it would be cool to have duplicate the experiment in front of the painting with a real rat. And so we had to find a rat. And someone said, go to Harrods pet shop. Go to Harrods. I'll get anything for you. So I went to Harrods, and I said, I'd like to get a rat. And they said, yeah, they're terribly, and they're all dressed up, you know. They said, yes, sir, would you like a female or male rat? And I said, well, a male rat. And they, like, the next day, God knows where they got it from. I go there, and they put this rat in a Harrods box. You know, it's all really fancy. It's like a pink box with this poor rat in it. Anyway, I take it to the gallery, and I have a little glass box, duplicate the experiment, and we put it in front of the painting. And by coincidence, Klaus Stack and Beuys came into the gallery. They were really impressed by the rat, the live rat, the whole thing. And Klaus Stack asked me to commission me. He gave me £100. I couldn't believe it was a fortune for me at the time. £100 to do the rat as a screen print, which was published in Germany. However, the kicker is amusing, which is that Harrod sold me a female rat. Not only a female rat, a pregnant one.
Oh my
And
gosh.
one morning, Ziggy comes to the gallery, and there's 8 little rats in the box with Mum. And what do we do? So at the time, there was a thing called multiples. You didn't call them multiples, where it was an addition of like 8, 10, or whatever. So I said, we'll just sell them as multiples of the work. And Ziggy said, good idea. And so we had to sign up, multiples available, certificate signed, Philippe Mora, of the experiment on a rat. No, we didn't sell one, of course. Who's going to buy a baby rat? But anyway, the idea was there. But so this German thing was somehow I had the provenance of this you can track down. But obviously, the Goethe Institute were aware that Ziggy Kraus Gallery, what it was, because of all the publicity, and then in the Times. Did you get that?
Yeah.
And that was pre-multiple. That was pre the live rat. Obviously, would have mentioned it if there'd been live rats. Knowing the Times, they would have mentioned it. But so Ziggy Kraus's name was getting into the papers every time, as was mine, because we were joined at the hip in those days. So the Goethe Institute would have known that Joseph Beuys was in town. They would have known the whole thing. So I think it was fairly easy. I've forgotten the name of the guy at Goethe who invited Ziggy to get the space.
I think we have
it somewhere, yeah. So.
Because he's important in the story, because for some reason he liked Ziggy and he liked what they were doing.
Yeah.
And he's important because he said to Ziggy, "You can have it at no cost." So he must have been a pretty progressive guy, whoever he was. I've forgotten his name. And go ahead.
What was the year of the meat sculpture?
I think it's 1970.
Okay.
I know what it is. It's April 1970.
And
it's on the poster. It's on that post sent you. Those are the dates of the meat sculpture.
Okay.
So I think it's
was it Dr. Schultz?
April, May.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Was it Dr. Schultz at the Goethe Institute?
It rings a bell, but it rings a bell. But somewhere I know he said to Ziggy, somewhere I read, or Ziggy told me, he said, "You can have this."
Okay.
So
did you ever go to the site ever, or were you?
Yeah,
already...
I did when I was in London, but like, crash visit, because as I say, I was in the US,
right,
and Germany actually. It was a whirlwind.
What do you remember about Gallery House? Just because there's just not very much documentation of it. So,
no, there's no documentation. There's not much documentation on Ziggy.
No, there isn't. So, what do you remember about the place, if you can recall?
It was not much more than having a bottle of wine with Ziggy, to be honest. It was just great to see him, and I thought, this is great, And he asked me whether I'd have a show there. I said, of course. I just don't know when I can do it. I'd love to.
Mm-hmm.
And my life just went off into this film direction.
Right.
And I met Rebecca?
Rosetta Brooks.
Rosetta, yeah, Rosetta. Yeah. I met Rosetta. I just don't remember much about it. But Ziggy liked her a lot.
Okay.
He had invited her to help him, as I understand it. There was or she had done something for Gallery House. Oh, look, it's murky. It's early 70s. And at some point he left Marlborough. I'd have to ask him. I'll ask him. But at some point Marlborough stopped using him. Mm-hmm. I don't know why or what, but I can guess. But I'm not sure what happened. By the way, he's still doing carpentry. Yeah. We spoke with him a couple of months ago on Skype, actually. Yeah. And he's great. He and Lisa.
yeah, he mentioned that he's still doing carpentry. He sounds like he's busy. So
Yeah, now he's a Navajo chief or something.
yeah,
I mean, that's like he does smoke thing every year. He wanted me to come and film it. I will if I can,
yeah.
if the timing's right. But look, I haven't seen the list of artists that exhibit at the Gallery House forever, but I know that a lot of artists went over there. Most prominently, I think Stewart
Right.
Brisley.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one event, a sort of art performance event that you might want to look into, which is sort of a transition Ziggy Kraus Gallery House thing, which is there's a photographer called Angus Forbes. I'll send you his email address. He lives in London, and he's the one who photographed the meat sculpture.
Okay.
He was our buddy, and he was a terrific photographer, and he was like very prominent doing like he was famous for doing a photo of a baked bean, Heinz close up of a baked bean that was able to be blown up on billboards all over London, which is no mean feat. If you see how small a baked bean is, to take a photo of that which can stand a blow up, it was a big deal. Anyway, so he was like a commercial photographer, but his studio was great, and he said to me, "Look, I'd like to. Could we do an art event at the studio?" And I think it was called like One Special Night or One Special Evening or something. And Stuart was involved, I was involved, Siggy was involved, and it was a whole performance. I'll give you an example of what was going on. Stuart decided that he'd have a bath in sort of a mud-like stuff he was making for the whole duration of the party. I decided that everyone should enter the party, forgive me, through a giant vagina. And so I built this giant vagina just inside the front door, and you had to get on your hands and knees and crawl through the vagina into the party. And by the way, Germaine Greer came, and she loved the vagina entrance. She was living underneath me at the Pheasantry with Martin Sharp. And Martin's important in this too. I don't think he exhibited at Gallery House, but he certainly exhibited at Ziggy Kraus. Are you familiar with his work?
No.
Martin Sharp? Martin Sharp did all the cream covers. Wheels of Fire. He was one of the original psychedelic artists.
Okay.
Very important in psychedelic art.
Mm-hmm.
And he did Oz Magazine. You familiar with Oz Magazine?
Yeah.
In London. Yeah, so Martin was the house artist for Oz Magazine.
Okay.
And Martin exhibited in the Degenerate Art Show, and he had an exhibition of his own art. Now, by the way, I think this is important. Martin, in this whole thing we were doing about not selling art stuff, we started buying art books and cutting them up and making collages. And Martin particularly went off on this. He called them Artoons, Artoons, Artoons. And he had a fantastic exhibition of Artoons at the Ziggy Kraus Gallery, which, like a lot of the shows there, which were incredible in retrospect, didn't get any attention from the establishment press. Mm-hmm. But this was like postmodern, way before postmodern. What we were doing was postmodern. There was no name for it though. We didn't know what we were doing. But it's because so Martin would cut up a Van Gogh, like he put Marilyn Monroe's head from Warhol into Van Gogh's vase of sunflowers. Mm-hmm. So there were all sorts of puns on art history and stuff. There was a great little book published. There's a catalogue of it, of the Ziggy Kraus. I don't know, it's got to be around somewhere. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mentioned that because Martin was at this big party night, and we were showing films. I organised it with Angus, and we were showing films on tech, and we had a muscle man. We wanted a muscle man in briefs. We didn't want to be sexist, so we had a guy, good-looking guy, doing muscle stuff, which we thought was be attractive to the women. Turned out to be attractive to the male gaze. But anyway, he was doing muscle stuff, and that guy turned out. This is a little footnote. He turned out to be Darth Vader. He's the guy they selected to play Darth Vader in Star Wars, the Muscle Man. I don't know if that exhibition had anything to do with it or not. Anyway, so Ziggy helped. Stuart was in the mud. We were showing movies, and it was a happening. We called it happening then, not performance art. Performance art became the posh term for it later, but really we called it happenings, where you didn't know what was going to happen actually. And so, because there's a lot of performance staff at Gallery House, and less at the Ziggy Krause Gallery. That's why this was a sort of a transition thing with seeing, Stuart in the bath and muscle men and people getting on their hands and knees to get into the gallery and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what I want to tell you, which I briefly, I should tell you this because, again, I remember the really funny stuff, but which sticks in my mind. So Ziggy, Stuart was, after I did the meat sculpture, Stuart, in competitive, I think, really, said to Ziggy, I'd like to do an exhibition where I vomit. And Ziggy said, what do you mean? He said, well, the work will be me vomiting. I was there. And so Ziggy, the spirit of Ziggy was anything goes. He said, okay, Stuart, okay, so what do I put on the invitation? Well, the exhibition opens on such and such a date and the artist will vomit at 4 p.m. I said, well, no one's going to come if you put that on the invitation. No, that's what the exhibition is. That's what the work is. That goes on the invitation. So, okay. So Stuart's plan was to eat like half an hour prior to the opening. He had this huge bowl of spaghetti. He was making this disgusting spaghetti with canned tomato sauce. So he starts eating, on schedule. And then this is an incredible thing, is that I'm with Ziggy, and this BBC film crew comes in. Now, this must exist, this film.
We're looking into it, actually.
What?
We're chasing up after the BBC, looking for it.
It must exist. They never lose anything, as far as I know. So anyway, this guy comes in, and he says, I understand you have an art opening today. And Ziggy says, yes, we do. And the guy says, oh, excellent. We're doing a documentary on art and industry. Would it be okay? Would it be okay to film the opening? And Ziggy says, yeah, of course. And so they set up a camera and everything. And now, how many people are you anticipating? And Ziggy says, I don't know. It's different every time. It's different every time. Oh, what exactly is going to happen? And Ziggy says, well, the artist is, here's the invitation. The artist is going to vomit at 4:30 or whatever the time was. The artist's going to vomit it. And they go, the artist's going to vomit. This is like turned into Monty Python. He says, he doesn't say, oh, let's get out of here. He says, oh, excellent. Where's he going to vomit? So he can, where's he going to vomit? And then Ziggy says, Stuart, where are you going to vomit? And Stuart upstairs eating says, oh, probably at the top of the stairs. Probably just at the top of the stairs.
Oh my God.
So they set up a camera. It's unbelievable, really. But anyway, so right on the button, Ziggy says, I'm ready. And the BBC goes, action. Stuart Brisley runs up the stairs and all over the place. I mean, it's disgusting. And it goes all over the BBC guy. And he gets really excited. He's going, oh, keep shooting. And so if you can find that film,
I really have to. Yeah.
gem.
When
But they
was
won't
this?
know. They probably wouldn't have. What?
When was this?
This would be 1970 or 71.
Okay.
It was
And
1970 or 71.
this-
But just knowing the BBC and archives, they won't have vomit. If you say if you ask them for artist vomiting, it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
But if you go Ziggy Krauss Gallery, Art and Industry,
Oh, okay.
you might find it.
Okay.
Because there's no way they use the vomiting in whatever they finally made, especially since he vomited all over the director.
And this was in Covent Garden, right?
Yes, Neil
Okay.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil Street. The address is on the address of the gallery is on the poster.
Right. Okay.
So how long did Gallery House go for
18
after that?
months. It went
What?
for 18 months.
Not long, right?
Yeah.
And do you recall who else, apart from Latham and Stewart, what are some of the other artists?
Yeah,
Might trigger some memories for me.
Gustav Metzger.
It's Metzger, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that we've noticed is, we know women also participated, but they're not really, recorded in the things that have been published about it.
Look, Kim, these were the days of unadulterated male chauvinism, and we
Right.
didn't even know we were male chauvinists. I mean, it was
Right.
just those was just like, yeah, they were. I remember Jermaine, like, I made a film in 1969.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, yeah, called Trouble in Melopolis, which was a three-penny opera, Bertolt Brechtian kind of a thing. And Jermaine starred in it, and she was fantastic. She was a fantastic actress, by the way.
Mhm.
She was really amazing. But I remember her saying, oh, how long is this going to take today? Because I've got to finish my book. And I said, oh, what's that? And she said, The Female Eunuch. I'm writing a book called The Female Eunuch. I said, oh, that's really interesting, And she was always awesome, Jermaine. She was like really tall. I was terrified of her.
Uh-huh.
I loved her. I was absolutely crazy about her. But she was like awesome, So you have to look up at her. And she said, oh, okay. And so Women's Lib was starting. Women's Lib was starting for sure. There's no question about that. But there were no. I don't remember Ziggy exhibiting a woman artist, for example. Did he? Did he ever?
We've heard that Carolee Schneemann, who's
Yeah. Right.
who was
Yeah. Well, she was an underground. She was the other culture. She was
Yeah.
part of the other culture because there was this mixing up of the alternate culture, the other culture. There was a kind of mix-up of that and the avant-garde art scene. And so there was the whole drug culture mixing in with the avant-garde. It was all sort of mixed up. Some people ended up going off into the art world proper. Some people never recovered. Some people never came back from drugs and stuff. So London at that point, the context of Gallery House and Ziggy Krauss, I think, is really important because it was social upheaval. It was actually, you could be stopped if you had long hair. I never thought I had long hair, and I looked at photos of myself and I go, God, I had long hair. I didn't think of myself as a long-haired hippie at all.
Mhm.
But I could walk down the street and be stopped by police
Mhm.
if I had long hair. The police would stop you and say, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" The police. My other roommate with. But I think there's an interesting context. I'm raving on here a bit. I'm sorry, but the context of avant-garde art and everything really is. You can't really separate it from what was going on in the rest of society at that time, which was upheaval. It was not like London is now. It was. And the police were actively, they busted Mick Jagger for smoking pot. They were going after John Lennon. There was a groupie police officer we called him the group. He was famous, with a funny name of Sergeant Pilchard. Sergeant Pilchard. And he, it's my roundabout way of saying I was living with Eric Clapton and Martin in the Pheasantry, which was a kind of salon. Not by it was just people would just drop by. All kinds of interesting people would drop by. The Living Theatre dropped by. There's 40 of them. And it was a whole scene. And Eric Clapton was there, and he was not the superstar yet, but he was well known. Sergeant Pilchard raided the Pheasantry. They had 14 cops raided us because they were looking for Eric Clapton. Mm-hmm. And that's what that painting is that's in that art, Dick Tracy breaking into Van Gogh's bedroom. That was what that painting's about. And I woke up and there was a guy at the end of the bed in a raincoat saying, "Put some clothes on, lad." And fortunately, I didn't have anything on me. I didn't have any pot. I mean, after pot, hash, people smoked hash then. Mm-hmm. Because that's what people did. And so I didn't have it. So I was let go. But this was the environment. So, you're painting at night and then the police burst in, literally, into your bedroom. Mm-hmm. So there was a bit of tension. There was definitely social tension. And then all my friends at Oz Magazine got arrested for obscenity. I don't know whether you're familiar with that. It's all part of what was going on at the same time. Richard Neville, the editor, he wanted to take a break, so he had the idea. He said, "I'll go and give schoolgirls, get schoolgirls to issue the next edit the next issue of Oz, literally." Mm-hmm. So these 20 schoolgirls he found. He said, "Here, you do it." Well, it turned out to be, Winnie the Pooh bonking and all sorts of stuff they were doing, and it's hilarious. And so the police arrested all the adults, and there was a famous trial, the Oz obscenity trial. Mm-hmm. That's all part of what was going on. And so those years, those 68 to 72, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. How did you meet Ziggy Kraus?
Had I meet him?
Yeah.
I met him through an artist called Michael Ramsden, mm-hmm. who was my very close friend, who was the star of my movie Trouble in Melopolis, and he did part-time work framing for Ziggy Kraus. Ziggy needed help with his Marlboro work, and Michael Ramsden, was one of his. He was very good at carpentry and stuff. And Michael framed all my first exhibitions with his help of Ziggy. And there's an interesting thing here. There was a very interesting woman who's in London who you should talk to. I'll send you her email address. Her name's Clytie Jessup. Clytie Jessup. Have you heard of her?
No.
And she had a gallery in King's Road. But she was a real bohemian. But she was the posh side of Ziggy Kraus Gallery because it was in Chelsea. Oh. And she'd actually sell things, which was just unbelievable. You'd have an exhibition there and she'd sell them. We just, wow, we can go and eat tonight. And Clytie loved Ziggy. So how did I get to that? Oh, so Michael, there was sort of ping pong between Ziggy Kraus and Clytie Jessup. She'd know about gallery house stuff for sure for you. She still lives in the same place in Beaufort Street in Chelsea. Let me just see if I've got her right here. But she was very much part of the, speaking of women, she was very much, she knew everyone we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But like she never would have exhibited Stuart vomiting or the meat sculpture or anything. That would never, no way. But she'd do, and if there were paintings and stuff, she would. Let's see. And people looked, I remember approaching the gallery, and I'd done cartoonish version of Dürer's print of a really fat lady sitting at the edge of a pool. And I'd done a painting of that, and I was approaching the gallery, and I saw Francis Bacon staring at my painting in the window of the gallery. And that Francis Bacon was like the god to us young artists at the time. And I got scared. I turned around and ran away. I didn't want to go into the gallery while he was staring at my painting. But so she was there. Clytie was there. There were people going in and out all the time.
What was her gallery called?
The Clytie Jessop Gallery,
Okay.
Jessop.
Okay.
I've definitely got her email address here. While I've got you, I'll just get it.
So, did you ever meet John Latham?
I'm sure I did, but I don't have any, anecdotes, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But we all, it was a pretty tight little group.
Mm-hmm.
Did I tell you about the Kubrick coming to the Ziggy Krause Gallery?
No.
Okay, so because of the, hang on, Clytie Jessop. Oh, this is a good one. The Kubrick thing is really a good one. Hang on. Have you heard of the Mackink artists, the brothers Mackink, Makkink, that Ziggy exhibited?
No.
Okay, hang on. Sorry, I got sidetracked by. Let's see here. Okay, I'll keep looking for that. Sorry. It was an incredible mixture of stuff going on. There was a lot of fashion stuff. Jenny Key. Familiar with Jenny Key?
Yes.
She was very much part of it. And she was in the film that I showed, in Passion Play, the film that I showed. And there was something called the Chelsea Antique Market. There was a kind of a Covent Garden, Chelsea, unlikely combination. Sorry, I'm still so anyway, the Evening Standard wrote an article about the Crucifixion Degenerate Art Exhibition, about a brick, because there was an attack on the gallery. Did you see that little clipping I sent you?
I'm not sure.
In the thing where it's important because it shows you the actual antagonism going on. It said that there's a little news story in the Evening Standard, brick at modern paintings.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the last batch of stuff I sent you, and it's got the meat sculptures on the cover of Time Out, and then on the side. You see that?
Sorry, I'm looking. Let's see.
It's in that last. Well, wait, it's in something I sent you.
Is it? Let's see. Do you remember what the
Scan of a page of the PDF or JPEG.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of the PDF?
Time Out or Meat Sculpture.
Okay. Is it Culture Shock or is it
Not Culture Shock.
Okay. I have these all filed away somewhere.
From where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, look, it's significant because it shows the antagonism. It shows the courage that Ziggy had.
Mm-hmm.
So, people didn't throw bricks through art gallery windows often. They did in the Nazi Party. They did in the Weimar Republic, but not in London. And so, it also shows you that the Goethe Institute had a lot of courage to let Ziggy loose. Although I'm not sure that they actually let him loose. They must have been concerned.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why it shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go. Brick and modern paintings is significant. Let's see if I can find it. It's fantastic period.
There's what? Sorry.
It's a fantastic period, that whole period. Lisa, I'm looking at where I sent it to you now.
So how did you know? How did you get the news that it closed?
I think I was in New York talking to Angus or someone. I don't remember exactly. The gallery house.
Yeah.
I don't recall exactly. Manifesto call to action.
Is that it?
You know that manifesto?
Yeah, I have that.
You want to check the names on there. There may have been names in there that exhibited at Gallery House. I don't know.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Okay. Well, definitely. Do that.
Damn, why is it that with all our computers we can never find what we want when we're looking for? It's just a rule, isn't it? You can never find what you're looking for. It's crazy.
We're seeing.
Well, yeah, we have it open.
Brick at modern paintings?
It's,
No.
No.
I have the art monthly open. That's not it, right?
No, that's not it.
Okay.
It's just a one-page thing, crucifixion exhibition. What have I done? Maybe I didn't send it to you. That's possible.
Yeah, it doesn't sound familiar. But I know you've sent quite a few things to Allison, and she's forwarded it on
Maybe
to
that's
us.
what happened. Did she send you everything? Because I didn't know what was going on, actually.
She may have. Maybe she missed it. I'm not. I can go back and check.
I'm going to find it for you while we keep talking.
Okay. So.
But I'd urge you to just in this whole thing. It's really the Ziggy Kraus story rather than the Gallery House story. Really,
Yeah.
What happened to him and where he was coming from. He was kind of a. And I don't say this in a bad way at all. He was kind of a naive.
Yeah.
He was kind of a naive guy. I mean, even when you talk to him now, but he was like a purist.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he was just single-minded about art, and it's so ironic that he was the framer for Marlborough, the most conventional conservative place you could possibly imagine.
Right.
Let's see here.
Do you know? I know you said you don't remember Rosetta very well, but I mean, do you know what she was doing at the gallery for him? Like, was she kind of organizing everything and helping him out?
Yes, all of the above.
Okay.
All of the above, absolutely. And she knew some artists, and she liked Ziggy a lot. There's no question she admired him.
Okay.
What he was, what he had been doing. Let me see here.
Do you know she lives in Los Angeles?
No.
Yeah, she does. She teaches at Art Center in Pasadena.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Oh, I'm getting frustrated. I'll stop here. I really want you to see that brick at Modern Paintings because it mentions it obviously is Ziggy Kraus Gallery.
Okay.
I will send it to you. Stanley Kubrick shows up at the Ziggy Kraus Gallery. He's preparing Clockwork Orange. And it's because of Brick at Modern Paintings and the meat sculpture on the cover of Time Out. So, see, the Time Out was on every newsstand in those days.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So all over London for 1 week was meat sculpture, Ziggy Kraus Gallery, hurry up, it's going fast. Meat rotting. So everyone it was a big deal. So Ziggy Kraus Gallery was doing this stuff, and I was doing the meat sculpture. And anyway, so Kubrick shows up with the art director for Clockwork Orange, and they select and buy some works from the Crucifixion exhibition, which appear in Clockwork Orange. They are the giant penis that Malcolm McDowell chases the woman around in the house. Remember that? In the movie?
Yeah.
That's from the Ziggy Kraus Gallery, from that exhibition specifically. And the dancing Jesus Christs, the rockets of Jesus, there's like 8 rockets, Jesus, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's in the movie too. Now, unfortunately, Kubrick didn't buy the meat sculpture, so I can't. I'm here to tell you it's not the Clockwork Orange, unfortunately. But it shows you the attention that it was all getting. And it's just a shame that they closed him down both times. Was there a specific incident that they closed him down at Gallery House, or it was just getting too crazy, or what?
Yeah, I think the German government was kind of feeling uncomfortable about some of the things that they were doing.
I'm not surprised, but
and the way they tell the story now is like it was supposed to be short-lived, okay. So it was while they figured out what to do with the building, they would allow Ziggy to do this thing, and not pay anything.
I'd heard that before, but are you saying that was like a story they made up later?
That's just the line that the official line
That's
that
the
we
official
get.
line.
Yeah, and even I think for a while they just didn't include any mention of it. But now if you go on their website, they briefly mention what it used to be on the London
Goethe Institute
website.
Although they have no archives of it.
Yeah, and we've inquired after them, and we've tried to talk to them.
But they've got no archives. That's a bit odd.
Or they say they have no archives.
Right.
Yeah. So
were the shows getting political at the end, or I don't know what they were getting rather. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think protesting the Vietnam War, obviously that was a big topic.
Right.
And I think they just didn't want to be associated with that type of attention.
Right.
So they kept trying to kind of censor.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, the Vietnam War, that was when we were just talking about that, it was huge.
Yeah.
As it was over. There are a lot of Americans in London who were against the war. And some had been evading, draft dodging. I don't know, we didn't really ask people. But there were a lot of Americans. I couldn't believe, I grew up in Australia, and Australia was one of the few countries that supported the US into Vietnam with troops. I think South Korea, Australia, I think that was it. Certainly not European countries. And so growing up, in high school, we were taught, we've got to stop the Vietnamese, otherwise we're all going to be eating with chopsticks. But by the way, I love eating with chopsticks. It didn't bother me. But anyway, so they were. It's all going to be. We've got to stop them there. When I got to London, and I started reading the newspapers, I couldn't believe that you could talk against the war publicly in newspapers and stuff. It was like a revelation to me. In fact, it was mostly against the war, all the London press, and that was like, wow, I've been in this bubble, you know, and so there were huge anti-war demonstrations. Famously, President-to-be Clinton was at one of them. He attended one of them, he says. So it's hard, you know, it's really hard to encapsulate in a few words the environment. But the Gallery House and Ziggy Kraus Gallery and all that, which is the radical aspect of it was totally a sign of the times. And disillusionment in the establishment, and capped off with it really started with I'm getting way philosophical, historical here, but it really started off with the Warren Commission, where no one believed it, and so and certainly my generation, after that Warren Commission came out and the questions, which by the way still persist, a whole generation completely lost faith in authority and government, just had no credibility. And the Vietnam War, that was compounded by the war in Vietnam, which no one could figure out why we were there. And this lack of credibility of the establishment compounded, I should say, was capped off with Watergate.
Right.
So that whole period, so from the Warren Commission to Watergate, the whole generation completely lost faith in the credibility and legitimacy of government. Well, that's totally reflected in the arts all over the world. And Ziggy really, obviously, was at one of the epicenters of that. And now he's a Navajo chief. It's a perfect story.
No, that's great. Yeah. What was the name of this gallerist woman?
Jessup?
Sure.
Clyde Jessup.
Have you checked the BBC radio archives at all on Ziggy Kraus Gallery and stuff? There might be interviews.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, we'll look at that. But that's
because it was not, radio was a big deal then, because it was cheap to go and tape someone, but it's expensive to go and film someone. So you might find more. You might find BBC arts programs on Gallery House.
Okay.
I'm just guessing, but some of those arts journalists were pretty progressive. They would have been aware of what was going on, and they easily could have mentioned.
Yeah.
And I know their archives.
Yeah, no, it sounded like basically everyone was showing up at Gallery House, just from what Ziggy was describing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure it's out there, but it's just nobody has seemed to have pieced together, you know, like the full story. And that's part of, we're just doing some research, and, you know, given our time frame, I know we're not going to be able to do it all, but we're definitely going to be publishing or putting together a small publication of what we found. So if you have anything, you know, photographs or anything from when you were, you know, here and hanging out with Ziggy, and that would be great if you could share that with us.
Oh, absolutely.
And could you
hanging
share...
out with Ziggy? That's a good name for your piece.
Hanging out with Ziggy. Would you send us the email of Clyde?
Yes. Oh, look, don't leave before I.
Okay.
Because we really need that angle from.
Yeah, she's great. She's a great one for you.
Yeah.
And we would like to...
And she was significant, because of what she was doing too. She'd show artists that had never been shown before, as long as it was in a frame.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, by the way, why we loved Clytie, is she had openings where she'd serve gin and tonic and white wine, which was like incredible because we were all broke. So Clytie, they were fantastic openings.
Well, what was served? Was anything served at Gallery House?
Or at Ziggy's?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay.
Unless someone had some money and we'd go and get some beer or something. But no. No, we were vomiting. No, it just wasn't. But there was at the night at Angus Forbes' studio, there was wine served, and also see, Angus had some money because he was successful as a photographer. And he said, "What about food?" And I said, "Well, serving, because we expected a lot of people. There was like 200-300 people showed up. I suggested we roast chickens because that's a cheap thing, but roast a lot of chickens. So for the day before, we must have cooked at least 50 chickens, in the oven at the studio, and they were really good." But the terrible thing was, for some reason, everyone was suspicious of them.
Oh no!
No one ate the chicken. No, they was just because of the context. They thought, "Hey, this is like they've done something weird to the chickens." So it's tragic. I wish I'd taken a photo. These are the days before people are filming everything. But there was an incredible image of this, the debris of the party, and these like chickens, just these sad chickens. Okay.
We would like to transcribe this and probably send it to you, so maybe you can see that all names are what they're supposed to be, and maybe add something if you'd like to add.
Sure. Let's see here. Oh, this is so annoying. Don't bear with me.
Yes.
I just got a big award in Germany, by the way.
We saw that. Congratulations. That's
no,
amazing.
thank you. It's ironic that it's the Germans. Again. It's this German connection. Can't escape it.
And what are you up to now?
I'm doing shooting and writing a musical called Radio, and then it's a musical comedy, and then a serious documentary called 3 Days in Auschwitz,
Mm-hmm.
which I've been putting off making for years. I've been filming. I've been to Auschwitz 3 times, and every time I went there, I filmed it, and I filmed it in 3D this year. And it's such a heavy subject, and so then I found out a lot of my family had died there, so I just couldn't actually come to grips with actually finishing the film because the subject matter is so grueling. So I'm finally finishing it. So that's going to be, it's the history of Auschwitz, and it's really about how do you deal with it. It's how do you deal with subjects like that. It's really about the process of absorbing something like that. Earlier this year, they discovered that, this is amazing, they discovered there were 40,000 more slave labor camps than previously known. 40,000. Mm-hmm. And the reason we didn't know about them is they're in the Russian area that the Nazis occupied. And the Russians never really talked about it. They were covering it up too because they were doing bad stuff too. Mm-hmm. So I discovered I had an aunt, my great aunt, Charlotte Murawski, who published a thesis on Nietzsche in 1915 at Breslau University, who got killed in Auschwitz. But she must have been brilliant because they hardly let women into universities then. let alone Jewish women. And this is 1915, and then I Googled her, and I couldn't believe it. Her thesis is in most prominent American universities.
Wow.
Charlotte Borowski. Then it was then, so it must have had a big impact. So it's horrible, but it's also great finding out all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, now this must be here. Okay.
And when was the last time you saw Siggy Kraus?
Well, I speak to him. I've been speaking to him at least once a year since I discovered he was in America, and since he's been trying to cajole me into filming him as an Indian. And that's so funny. But I said, well, because he wants me to do. He says, no, it's great. You don't. It sounds awful, but he says it's great. You don't eat for 6 days or something, and you stay in a tent with Indian chiefs, and you dance, and you smoke really funny weed. God knows what they're smoking. It must be like, and because they get high. It's like they get really high because they're not eating and stuff. Anyway. I will go if I summon up the...
You should, yeah.
No, definitely I should. And he said the chiefs agreed you'd be the first white man that's ever been allowed into the tent. And I'll never get out of the tent. But seriously, I speak to him, quite often. And I haven't met his wife, partner, in person, but she sounds lovely. She sounds really great.
She is great.
Okay, we've found it. It's Clytie.Jessup, CLYTIE.Jessup, JESSOP, at googlemail.com.
And do you keep in touch with her? Obviously you do.
Yeah, on email, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Can we mention your name?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do that. Now, make a point of doing that. Say Philippe said we should contact you.
Okay.
And as I say, she knows all the personalities better than me in a way. Or put it this way, from a different perspective. She had to bail. I was arrested even though I didn't have anything on me when that Sergeant Pilchard was there. And she dramatically had to bail me out in time for my opening night at her gallery. It was very, romantic's the wrong word, but it was very dramatic.
That's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, no, we'll contact her for sure.
By the way, I've just thought of something else. I don't know the timeline here, but my first exhibition at Clytie's was called Vomart, Vomart. But the paintings were very tasteful. But there was an image of a shot putter vomiting. He's had a shot put and he's vomiting, and it was done in pastel colours and everything. And I had an exhibition. She was the first person to exhibit me, and as I keep mentioning, to the point of being dreary, we didn't have any money, so I couldn't buy oil paints. So I bought the cheapest paints I could find at a hardware store, which were for painting toilets and bathrooms. And they're like weird colours. And the best bit was, I saw on one can that these paints kill insects. And I thought, well, that's fantastic. My first show at Clytie's, we had that not only are these remarkable works of art, but they will kill insects in your home. and they're fly-killing paintings, and that got a lot of attention in Chelsea. So Clytie definitely had an avant-garde, rebellious streak in her. You'll see when you meet her.
Is she much older, or is she in okay health?
She's in very okay health, but she's about the same age as Ziggy, so she's well into her 70s.
Okay. I see.
But she deserves a shout-out, to use an American term. She deserves it. She's just great.
And are you going to be in London anytime soon, or are you busy?
Look, I never know.
Okay.
I'm trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Germany a lot, and I've got to get to London. I want to film something in London. There's flies here.
But not very soon.
Not in the immediate month or something.
Okay.
What's your schedule?
We're opening November 28th.
When you say you're opening, when are you?
We're putting together an exhibition at Flat Time House, which is John Latham's home and studio.
And we're publishing part of what we're finding about Gallery House and Psychic Kraus, and that's going to be presented in December 12th.
Right.
Yeah, so we will send you a copy of what we create.
Great.
Yeah, but yeah, in the meantime, if you could send us any photographs or any sort of, I don't know, anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I've sent you some. I'm sure I've got much more.
Okay.
You might find some stuff. I mean, how deep do you want to go? You know, there's Germaine Greer. There's all this stuff. There's Martin Shaw, Oz Magazine. It's a huge subject. It's the sort of tip of the iceberg.
It is.
Yeah.
But I'll send you some more stuff.
Okay.
I've got some good photos. A couple of good photos of inside the pheasantry, which was this, the salon.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of good photos by a photographer called Bob Siderman.
Mm-hmm.
He's important. He was at Ziggy's gallery. He did the famous photos of Janis Joplin.
Okay.
And the Grateful Dead. And he lived with us for a while.
And then should we talk to Angus Falls too?
Angus Forbes, yeah.
Okay.
Let me get you his. He won't be as forthcoming as Clytie.
Okay.
He's a very good friend of mine. He was an alcoholic, and like a lot of alcoholics, when they stop drinking, they're not as interesting. But his mind is really good. He'll have a lot of factual, but he's pretty dry.
Okay.
Angus. Okay, this is what I've got for Angus. But I was going to say, Bob Siderman did the famous cover of The Young Girl for an album called Blind Faith. Are you familiar with that album?
No.
And that recently, there's just like last week, the Museum of Modern Art in New York acquired that album as one of the great rock album covers of all time. The artwork, one of the great. But if you Google Blind Faith cover, you might remember it. It's a classic. So he's only just being recognized. Better late than never.
Yeah, I've seen this.
You've seen that, yeah. So the Museum of Modern Art just said it was one of the greatest covers.
Mm-hmm.
That was controversial at the time. It would probably be controversial now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's another. I've got some photos from him that he took at the time. Okay, I've sent you Clytie's again, and I've sent you Angus. Now, there's an artist who's incredible. Some of these guys became superstars, were picked up by Saatchi.
Yeah, no, a lot of them went on to have really huge careers.
Sturziker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember his first show at Ziggy's Gallery. But he's a big star.
Yeah. Do you know David Medalla?
Yeah, very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was also, exhibited. Stephen Willits. I don't know if you know him.
Not familiar with him.
He was there, and he just had another show at the Whitechapel earlier this year.
And how's John Latham doing?
He's no longer with us.
Oh, he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
He's doing fine then. He's in heaven. He's doing fine.
Yeah, he's okay. I think he passed away in 2005 or so.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and then so his house and studio is in Peckham, which is in South London. And
right.
There's an archive, and it's also a gallery and an artist's residency space. And so we've been, our kind of project is that we've been brought in there, and we're putting together something that will happen. And in our investigations, I think the thing that's really, been a big.
Got bigger. How did you find Ziggy? How did you locate Ziggy?
Oh my
God! That's well done.
So I went through this guy named Pierre Condru, and he's written a little bit about Gallery House. And I, talked to him, and he passed on Ziggy's address, and it was a process, but
saga, yeah.
Yeah, we got in touch, and we had a really great Skype session, and we recorded that. If you want to watch it, I can pass on the link to you.
Did you get Ziggy on Skype? Did you?
Yeah.
Where did he go to do that?
At home.
Ziggy was at home with Skype?
With Lisa, yeah.
Yeah, with Lisa, yeah.
Yeah, so...
That's rare. That's very rare.
It was great. No, he could have talked forever. And, he had some great stories, and that's how he was mentioning somebody who performed in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he brought up your name in connection with that, but that's how we that line lit up.
Yeah. Just remembered something else. The Richard DeMarco Gallery in Edinburgh, very famous gallery now, they invited me to exhibit in their gallery. I think it was the same, the rat painting exhibition, the black and white painting, black and white and colour exhibition. But just wait for this helicopter to go. But the other avant-garde artist who arrived there was an Italian guy called Daniel Spurri. Heard of him?
Yes.
Spoerri. So he, and what he did, he had banquets, and he'd have 20 people eating, and then he would pour plastic over the debris of the transparent resin, about 8 inches thick, over the table, and then he'd exhibit those and sell them for a lot of money. And he had a restaurant, I think it was in Dusseldorf, where he made surreal meals, where everything was not what it seemed. Mm-hmm. But this gets to Ziggy. With Ziggy and me went to Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Festival. I don't know, it's been 71 or 70 or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know, 70. And we were invited to this big banquet that Spurri was going to do this art event with. And sort of just after the meal, and the meal was incredible. It was, as I say, everything was disguised and or weird. Like he'd have roast embryo chicken, from chickens that hadn't been hatched, but roasted and potato was ice cream and carrots were fruit, and it was all completely weird. But anyway, as it started, there's banging on the window. There's Joseph Beuys banging, furious that they wouldn't let him in. And he hadn't been invited. He's furious. He's banging it. He says, "Boys, oh, this is," and screaming. And I thought this was terrible. And according to Ziggy, he told me this in one of our recent conversations. According to Ziggy, I got outraged that they wouldn't let him in, and I set the tablecloth on fire, which was apparently I'd read somewhere that surrealists thought that setting fire to things was good. Anyway, there was no harm done. It was put out, but it was a big brouhaha. But that's what was going on. Ziggy came out of that, crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. That must have been 70. I don't know. You must have a chronology, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think we have to go now from here.
Well, that's good because my battery's running out on this my portable computer here.
We'll put this together, and we'll have to. Can we contact you again to?
Of course. Look, I'm big fan of Ziggy, but I'm also I think it's weird that this period's never been documented properly.
Yeah.
So even if you're doing a slice, it's a big step. It could open up a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you're doing a slice of a big cake, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's what we've determined too. Someone could do like a 4-year research project on just Ziggy. Like there's so much material there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming out. Like, you pick like with you, like you pick a name and all this and anecdotes and great stuff come up. Like
I mean, Clockwork Orange and Ziggy Kraus Gallery. Who knew?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the film.
Right,
Sculptures
and the Kubrick archive is actually within our school system.
So we are going
we could even go look at that. Yeah.
There must be documents about that.
Well, it's a famous scene where he chases her around with that big penis thing. It's a famous scene.
And Kubrick documented everything like crazy. He kept every record about anything that had to do with every movie. So I'm sure there's material.
So he'd have documentation on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How much he paid Ziggy.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see. We'll know that.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah,
very nice. Thank you so much.
And in show business, we don't say good luck. We say break a leg.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so break a leg with this and speak to you soon, I hope.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
the best.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.